Alright, thank you guys all for being here. This is pretty special and pretty cool and feels very surreal. My name is Kelsey Kaufmann and I'm one of the co-founding board members of Cactus Plus. And I'm honored to spend my birthday with you guys. Haha, you are I'm honored to have these two in the front row. These are two of my favorite dudes in the whole world. But yeah, so we have a video playing behind us that our friend Liv, who's bartending, made. This is Kate Klingbeil. We're going to talk more about Kate Klingbeil a lot today. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. But this project has been in the works for over 5 years. It's pretty surreal to be in a place where we can visually not just look at it, but use it. It's really special and very, very cool. Without further, I'm like, wow, now I'm really nervous about this. Here we go. I'm not a public speaker, behind the scenes guy. I have a big voice, but big mouth. So anyways, Kate, let's start. Can you tell us a little bit more about your art, or tell us anything about your art practice and how you got started making work?
Yeah, so Kelsey and I go way back. We've known each other for 20 years. We went to high school together at Homestead. And I guess that's where my art started. So I'm from Mequon. I went to school in California in Oakland where I studied printmaking. And then from there moved to New York and did a bunch of painting. But really I call myself a visual artist because it's about the idea, not the medium. So I move between mediums often. For the most part working with highly textured surfaces. And it was about 3 years ago that I moved back to Milwaukee after I was in New York on kind of a grueling show schedule, and I was craving a different pace and a different group and a different way of working. And I had been making these pastoral landscapes in New York about this place that I came from without spending much time as an adult here. So it felt right to move back, and that's when I started collecting rocks.
Hell yeah. All right. Can you talk about beachcombing and how did you get involved in beachcombing? If you weren't aware, this mosaic that's outside the front door of Cactus Club is hundreds of rocks and bricks, and Kate collected many of them.
Yeah, it was a group effort over many, many years, so it took about 5 years to collect all of these rocks, and like many of you in this room, I'm sure, I've been collecting rocks since I was a kid, but during the pandemic when I moved back here, I needed a way to get out of my studio, and I needed a way to regulate myself, essentially, to de-stress. So I started going to the lake and started looking for rocks, not even as a way to make art, but as sort of an anti-art practice. I had been making these paintings that started getting heavier and heavier. I started incorporating a lot of trash into them. And yeah, not just rocks, but like detritus and plastics and all these things I was embedding into the paint. And the rocks sort of became a constant over the last 5 years. My paintings got heavier and heavier. My gallerist started asking me to start using different surfaces because the canvases were not the most secure. And yeah, so eventually I wanted to make mosaics. I was really craving something that was like for the people rather than for a few people. As you guys might know, art's kind of expensive to buy. And it felt antithetical to like why I was making work, I guess. To be making these paintings that would maybe go to a show and maybe be seen on Instagram or something, and like it wasn't really lining up for me. So the rocks sort of clicked in place. I then had been here for a few years. Kelsey applied for a grant.
Shout out Ruth Arts. Thank you for the Wisconsin Special Projects Grant. I think this is a cool opportunity to note too, the way that this was able to come to be is because we framed it as an art project. And I think there's something really alarming and really messed up that for an accessibility improvement, there wasn't municipal foundation support for a capital improvement project to enhance accessibility, because accessibility obviously enhances our collective quality of life and experience. And so that's like one thing through this process that has been like repeatedly alarming, the lack of thoughtfulness with public policy and the lack of resources around it. So shout out Ruth Foundation for the Arts, but again, it was framed as an art project. Like, that's bananas. And we still need more arts funding. I'm not anti-art, as you might maybe know. That's our next thing that we're going to work on is public arts funding in Wisconsin. I hope you all know you're involved.
So after the grant, they successfully accepted the project. Kelsey told me about it, and of course I was super excited. This was a dream come true. I had been wanting to make something outdoors and permanent and public for a long time. And to be doing it with this space and with these people is I don't even know what to say. It's just such a dream to me. So from there, I had to actually learn an entirely new medium, even though my paintings do incorporate many different materials and are mosaic adjacent. I did have to make sure that it was going to be structurally sound over the years, and it was going to withstand the winters and everything. So Cactus bought me a class at the Chicago Mosaic School, and I took this architectural mosaics class with this guy, Gary Drossel, and it was 6 days long, and he taught me all about all the materials I needed. And originally, we actually were thinking about making this project out of all tile. The rocks weren't even going to be in it at all. But it wasn't feeling right. I was really struggling with starting it, I guess. We had gone through many iterations of the sketch process, and ultimately the one we all landed on was this. Let's see, do I have it here? This is the first round sketch. So there were 3 to begin with, and we decided on the last one, the one on the bottom. And by we, I mean we.
We. It was a good project. Do you care if we pass this around?
No, please. That's not the original.
Malcolm,
That's a
my
copy of
assistant.
it.
Perfect.
But I was originally going to make essentially images of rocks with tile. But yeah, then I had all these rocks I had already had in my studio, and I started moving them around, and it felt right. I knew that was what we had to do. Kelsey knew that's what we had to do.
And I really love to highlight how cool I think it is that it's subcultural or subterranean and the relationship between the two. And to me, it always reminded me of a kid's picture book where you slice a scene in half. So I hope you guys also feel that experience when you look at it.
Yeah, maybe I should have said that is a theme I've been working with for the last 6 years, is this underground, thinking about history over time, who's been there before, where we've each individually been as people, and the experiences that make up who we are today, stacked on top of each other. So naturally, that was what I wanted to make as my first mosaic project, an image of a landscape cut open so you could see all the layers and all of the bits and all the people and ideas that are involved in the whole project.
Can you talk at all about what the bricks, or can you share the story of some of the bricks and yeah, that's all.
Yeah, so I've been collecting these for a long time. Mostly they've come from Sheridan, which is just south of here. And for the most part, it's not rocks. They're technically bricks. So it's pieces of city trash that the city dumps at the lake to stop erosion. And from there, I actually cut them all in half because I wanted the piece to be half as heavy. I wanted the backs to be flat. And then I didn't have to use twice as many rocks. So yeah, there's hundreds and hundreds of bricks.
Many types. And we went on a deep dive about some Cream City bricks and what the relationship of different colors of bricks are, and it was pretty cool.
Right. I'm really interested in trying to decipher with the Cream City brick. Is it a brick or is it a rock? And it's still up for debate because the silt is what creates the color of the Cream City. It's like that yellow color. And so theoretically, I'm wondering, and if there's any geologists in here, please speak up. Wondering if some of the pieces are actually rocks that have been made over time and pressure rather than by people.
Can you talk about the steps involved to make the mosaic in the most literal sense?
Yeah, so right behind us, you can see many of the steps. the first step was laying out all of the rocks on a long table that spanned the entirety of my studio. So the whole thing is 29 feet long. And I put a bunch of tables together and then started placing the rocks and then moved them around many times. But ultimately kind of just had to go with my gut in the beginning and then filled in all of the little spaces from there. But yeah, the first part was laying them out. Second part would be cutting them in half with a wet saw. Third part would be attaching them with mortar to a mesh backing, which was cut into 10 sections so that each section wasn't super heavy. From there, I took glass tile that we got from a Wisconsin mosaic supply up north and inlaid all of the little bits in between the rocks, which I imagine is like the detritus that washes up between the rocks at the beach, all the microplastics and everything. And from there, I cut the backer board, which is called weedy board. It's a tile backer board that can get wet. And I cut it so that it's a puzzle piece, so that the seams aren't just entirely straight. I picked up each section on the mesh and like carefully plopped it onto the board with more mortar and kept inlaying tiles. But because this is sort of a new process, I think it wasn't as streamlined maybe as it will be in the future. I feel like, what did you say, you're building the ship as we're sailing it?
We're constantly saying that at Cactus Club.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of this mosaic that we have?
I like this heart that you might have seen that's kind of a third of the way down. Basically, my favorite rocks, it's not really about the rocks themselves, it's about the experience collecting the rocks. So it's about who I was with when we found the rock, which our friend Natasha was with me when she found that one. And so I cut that one in half. It was originally just half of a heart, and now it's a full heart.
We talk at all about some of the Easter eggs, and I encourage everybody to spend some time kind of peeking about and assigning what they think it may be and what it might be. It might be the same thing.
Yeah, so there's a lime, there's a cherry, there's a creature having a good time. There's a mouse singing karaoke. There's a starry night sky. There's two black flags. One is like a anarchist black flag. The other one looks like a piano key, but it could also be the band. I got confused when Kelsey asked me to make a black flag. I thought she meant the band, but she meant
awkward.
What else is there?
Watermelon.
There's a watermelon.
Palestinian colors all collected together, other than the watermelon.
Yep.
The hat tip to the flag. Skateboard for sure. Shout out Sky High. Maybe Aaron's in the mix. There we go. There's also a sky behind the skateboard. We're celebrating our local skate shop. Always support your local skate shop.
There's a bunch of plants.
That's true.
There's many trickles of water coming down, dividing the cracks.
This.
Yeah, that was the first thing that went in the disco ball. That was Kelsey's request.
Priorities. Could you talk about the railings that are not presently affixed to this ramp, but will be by the end of September, God willing?
Yeah, let me show y'all. Let me show y'all this sketch. This has the railings in it. So the railings will be fabricated by Mikhail Dance, but designed by me. But really the whole thing has been a collaborative process. It's been a conversation, which has been so great. They have sensory spin elements or kinetic elements. So these beads that you see in between the diamonds will be on ball bearings, and you can walk up the ramp and spin them, sort of as a stim toy. And then the diamonds are made out of plexiglass. And
they just arrived today, the plexiglass. We're very excited. Give it up for plexiglass. Transparent plexiglass, all right. Yeah. That seems good. If you want to see what the plexiglass will kind of look like, Kate made this gorgeous model that I had no idea that they were working on. That's right by the door to the live room that I encourage you all to check out. It's very cute. But there's a little square piece of translucent plexiglass there that's like an aquamarine color. We got like 11 colors. It's going to be fantastic. Also outside above the speakers, there's some plexiglass kind of frames, and those are kind of what helped to inspire that part of the visual. Originally, we talked about stained glass, and then there's lots of liabilities, I'm told. We learned about liabilities from our shout-out architect. Keith is in the room. Big shout-out for Keith for doing an incredible job helping design this and walk us through this crazy-ass process. Hell yeah. Yeah, and Lynn Barber was our structural engineer, and the number of like folks from different corners of different industries and professions. Shout out to Automatic Entrances of Wisconsin who donated the sensors. It was incredible. It was the easiest thing we've ever, like, of the whole project was working with them. It was really cool. Okay, we can go back and then we'll do more things later.
I also brought this as an example of the beads. So these are made out of resin, and there will probably be one on each pole, not stacked, but I don't know.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Yeah. And Vinny is making those.
Yeah, shout out Vinny Zager. Maybe he's here somewhere. Should we pass those around too for fun? Sure. Yeah, we love a good. Yeah, show and tell. Thank you. I was like, what are you about to say, Kelsey? Can you talk about the most difficult part of this project?
Probably working. Well, I wasn't the one doing it. You were, but working with the city and dealing with that part was really intense. There's so many barriers in place to keep this from happening. But other than that, I think, I don't know. I mean, so much of it was new for me and not something that came easy. I learned so much throughout the whole thing. Probably, man, I don't know. There's like every part of it was difficult, to be honest. Like, it wasn't like painting. With painting, it comes automatic at this point, and this, I really had to consider every move I made because of the longevity and this like safety aspect. Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
All right, I've got one more question for Kate, and then I turn the floor over to my friends in the audience. We're going to do a little Q&A for folks that have questions. This is going to be your time to shine. But if you're shy, you can also ask questions later. We love participation later, too. Last question. What advice would you give to young artists that are interested in pursuing art and doing projects? Yep, that's the question.
Yeah, build your own community. Make it happen for yourself. I think waiting for something to happen for you probably won't. So find your people, get together, make a space, document it well, and keep getting together and talking about art. And stay curious. Go outside, find things that inspire you. Switch mediums. Don't pigeonhole yourself into one thing. You want to leave room for growth, always.
Yeah, I think curious and caring were our two big CCs of this project, and that was like the common through line for everybody that was involved, from the architect to the plumbers to it feels like a central core ideas here. But all right, let's do some public participation. Does anyone have a question? It can be about anything mostly. Scott, our friend Scott.
Hello. Is this a one-on-one for you, or do you see yourself doing more big, large-scale mosaics in the future?
I'm going to repeat the question just because we are recording it for a live stream or recorded purposes. Is this a one-off project for you, or do you see yourself doing more projects like this in the future?
This is the first project like this, but hopefully not the last. I think using rocks, you have to have the right venue or the appropriate place for them because they are so sacred. I wouldn't do this anywhere. It needs to be in this place where they exist, where they came from. It's so close to the lake. So I think if I were to do something else public, it would be probably more tile focused or with rocks that mean something to the specific place. Yeah. Context is everything, I think. Oh yeah. So, so Kelsey had the idea to have them say "another world is possible."
I told myself I won't get any more text tattoos, so I thought it was a great idea to text tattoo the buildings. But no, to be real, it's an old abolitionist phrase, and I've heard it in several contexts from amazing, inspiring authors and thought leaders, and yeah, it really sort of embodies what we're trying to create here in terms of an intergenerational environment for permission giving, for catharsis, for sharing, for mutual aid, for fun, for just like playfulness. So we, as the project kind of went on, started thinking about the door as like a portal into this other place and like this other environment. And so that felt like it really kind of captured it.
Yeah, and the font was actually designed by Tia Woods.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted a continuity with that. So it was really it was so nice to not think about what I was going to make for once and just like, just put it together.
Yeah, and Tia's the one that also painted the bathroom doors and the front doors and has done awesome merchandise for us and is a dear friend of the club that's based in Iowa.
Oh, also, most of those rocks are from Clody on the steps.
Black Rock's at Clody.
Mm-hmm. Best black rocks in town.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really struck listening to you and seeing that amazing mosaic out there, that accessibility can have an aesthetics to it, that it can be beautiful, and I wondered if you wanted to talk about that at all.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, so much of this project too is, I think, consideration of our visual environments impact our quality of life, and all of this bullshit, sorry guys, new development, condo construction, like that has material impacts on how we experience the world. And the cheap materials of IKEA shelves and all of like this throwaway disposable culture, all of that is just like everything that's ick. And so that's like one layer to it. Another layer to it is like the idea of the longevity and like the idea of like there is architecture in Milwaukee that's been celebrated for centuries, and like it's so special, like the idea of preservation. Maybe I'm going to take this moment to show hate for the Wisconsin Preservation State Historic Preservation Office, because there's incredible incentives for commercial businesses to do preservation. We like preservation, it seems great. However, they have very strict standards and very rigid, narrowly defined definitions of what's eligible and what's not and why. And initially, they weren't interested in the idea of the ramp going to the front door, and that was non-negotiable. And then once it was loosely considered, it was met with grave, almost disgust, I would say, the idea of adorning it in any way. They wanted it to be as inconspicuous as possible, even though this is accessory to a historic, very ugly building. The cultural history here matters. That's what's significant. No one's like, wow, Cactus Club, what? So cool, that aluminum siding. So we could have gotten a 40% tax credit, so that's for simplicity's sake, call it a $100,000 project. 40%, $40,000, big money in this world and life. And the idea of maybe like presenting or performing that like we weren't gonna adorn it, or maybe we'd adorn it after 2 years and see if they'd catch it. And after a lot of consideration with many folks on the team, it was like, no, we're gonna do this on our terms and our way, and we can work and chastise and try and get things changed externally. But the National Park Service is what oversees it. And to be clear, I still think it's really important in historic preservation. I'm not hating the idea of that. It's specifically the folks involved in these roles of leadership and how we engage with them that I think is worth some examination. But playfulness, sorry, I'm monologuing right now, but playfulness is at the core of this. And so like having something that's utilitarian and having a function in this infrastructure clearly has a very important, clear function. But like introducing like, and it can be fun, and it can be thoughtful, and it can be annoying or curious or like whatever it may be, everyone that walks out of Grappies has to see the stairs. And there's something that's so pleasing about that. We're, yeah, like multiplicity of reasons. But the beads on the railings, when Kate pitched that, I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. That's so cool. It's like, yeah, kids' playground, this is literally like in everyone's playground, is really special.
Yeah, I think it's a bridge, personally, like a bridge between neurodivergence and other types of disabilities too. It's this moment that you get to spend regulating your nervous system. And I think it's really important that everyone goes through the same door. Like, bottom line, that
Making me emotional.
yeah, me too. It's really easy to make me cry. Yeah, and we're not hiding this ramp. It's like we're celebrating it. It's loud. You know, it's not supposed to be hidden. We don't want it to go to the back.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. So everyone using the same front door, universal design, that's what this is all sort of under the umbrella of. Sammer, question.
Hey.
Okay.
First, I want to thank you for your level of intentional representation of the mosaic. Like, I really appreciate that. But as an artist, how did you come to some of those decisions of what you wanted to include and express with the mosaic?
Oh yeah, question was, thank you. How did you come to the conclusions of some of the detailed elements of the mosaic and what visual devices were incorporated?
I think it came naturally just being a part of this community, but also it didn't solely come from my brain. This process was very collaborative and conversational, and anytime people came to the studio, I wanted them to sort of throw out ideas, and a lot of it was spitballing between us, and it naturally grew. It's a process that doesn't get figured out in the front end. It's sort of like the ball gets rolling and then it picks up more ideas as it goes. But I thought about cactus and about what cactus means to me and the feeling that I want to portray, and different elements that come together to create this place and everyone that's involved. I think I've said a few times that each rock is sort of representative of a person involved in this place. And there's so many different types of rocks out there. And they're all important.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Maybe this is less of a question, more of a reflection, but on the topic of adornment, you know, you mentioned using reclaimed bricks that used to build and represent the city to make this mosaic that is supporting something the city itself won't support, which is an accessibility ramp. So talking about the kick-ass impact of using DIY, urbanism, and reclaimed rock to like do what the city won't do.
That gave me chills. That's beautiful.
That's really astute. So for folks in the back that may not have heard, Emmy basically named that the brilliance of Kate using the refuse of building materials from Milwaukee to build something with such utility in a city that governmentally, policy-wise, isn't supporting the project itself. And so sort of the stark nature of that is pretty special and cool. Thank you for sharing that. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming and spending your time with us. Thank you for your support. There's countless artists, neighbors, community members who have made this possible, and it'd be impossible for me, and you wouldn't want to hear me list all these names. But all of you are part of this wild web, and it means more than I can adequately convey. I encourage you to hang out, dance, converse with one another. Everyone in this room, I'm sure, has really good stories and isn't a total basket case like most of the rest of the planet. Or at least a different flavor, perhaps. We're going to do queer karaoke starting at like 7:30 or thereabouts. But there's a party all night that you're all invited to. Thank you again.
Thank you. I'll be here all night too if anyone has any.